Hey everybody, we have Ernie Vargas here, the Probate Fox, Rob Badhorn from Lead Fusion, and we're going to do a quick 5-minute video here on the best cold callers or VAs to use for probate and inheritance leads. So quick video, we're a day late, sorry about that for our normal subscribers and everything. If you aren't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button for if you're in Facebook or YouTube. Really appreciate that moving forward, so make sure if you have that, definitely go ahead and smash that button. And if you have questions, feel free to ask those questions as well. We'll go from there. All right. So Ernie, getting a little bit of feedback on your side, but that's okay. I think I'm coming across on you okay. But cold callers. A lot of people think that for probate and inheritance, cold callers maybe isn't the best approach. And what's your thoughts on that, just in general, on cold calling? And then what are some of the right people to use for cold calling? Because in my wholesale business, there was definitely cold callers, specific types of cold callers that I would use that would have the biggest impact, right, on and really getting that contract under for wholesale and really flipping. So I'll take it away. What cold callers in probate? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think dialing is absolutely a very successful method of getting a hold of your prospects and having a good conversation that creates an impact, right? That you're looking for, the right kind of impact. Can you dial? Absolutely, yes. It's interesting because I mean, I've been dialing probates specifically for over 20 years now, right? So not only have I done that in my own local market, right, which is within the Southern California market, which is and every market is different, right? So Southern California is unique in its own way, different regions of that marketplace, bigger cities. But I've also done that across many states over the course of the last 20 plus years. And, my favorite method of communicating or reaching out to sellers and prospecting has been by phone. And everybody's got a different preference. There's nothing wrong with doing direct mail. Direct mail absolutely works as well. But when you're in a bigger metropolis, such as like Los Angeles, for example, well, let me go back a little bit. I think that you really need to be very careful at really looking to see who you are, what your skills are like, what your resources are like, and you have to start with that. It's not a one size fits all for everybody. If you feel like if you feel comfortable with the phone, jump in, right? If you're short on cash and maybe you don't necessarily have marketing dollars to start, jump on the phone. Absolutely. If your time's limited though, and maybe you're even uncomfortable, being on the telephone, then you might want to go that direct mail route. But you also have to understand your marketplace, right? Geographically speaking, what is that like? In general, probates tend to be a marketplace that not everybody's prospecting. Maybe people are prospecting less. So that's an advantage. But if you have a choice and all things are equal, then for me personally, I've always preferred the phone. Why? Well, it's part of my personality. I love picking up that telephone and I love talking to people. I love, just really being able to get into a conversation with them and hearing what they have to say. I also want to know if somebody's not interested in selling, and if they're not interested in selling, why not? What does that mean? So I love to explore these conversations with them. So the more data that I can gather from a phone call, the faster I'm able to deploy the next steps. Should I put them on a follow-up campaign? Should I remove this lead off of my list altogether? So for me and the people that I have worked for, cold calling has absolutely been a very successful method of communicating. Now I'll say, Rob,
if I could just jump in, what people have to know that there's a time period, right, that has already elapsed, right? So when people, especially in probate, file for probate, that the family has pretty much, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're at a time where they need to get rid of the property if they want to get rid of that family home and everything. So they've kind of already been through a lot of emotional impact. But correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you're the 20-year guy here.
No, you're right. You're right.
So,
you're right.
So
absolutely.
When they do get that call, it's not like you're hitting them up at a bad time, right? They're at a time of acceptance that it's the right time to move into probate and to move and into really the next phase, right, of really getting rid of that property if they want to get rid of the real property.
Absolutely. And to go further on that, it's been my experience that when somebody files a probate, they've come to the conclusion as a family, for the most part, that they have to do something to move forward in order, to kind of get past. I mean, by this time, most people have already buried their loved one. They've already mourned, and they've really come to a mental state that, hey, we have to do something now. There's a house that's been left behind. We have to move forward, whether that means to sell it or to transfer title to some family member, whatever it may be. In order for them to be able to do that, they have to go through the probate motions. Yeah. And
plus, I think they're at a time where they're, again, looking for help too, to say, okay, now I've mourned, I've gone through this whole process, right? What is the next step, right? And I think that's where, as an investor, you can really help out, because you have that tool, really that tool bag or tool chest that you're able to help out that family in mourning, and so forth. So, yeah. But getting back to, what are, obviously we established that cold calling is good right now. And again, you have to feel comfortable with it, for your personality to talk to people out there. But what are some of the best strategies in terms of cold calling and people that you've used in the past? What worked? What has worked well? What has not worked so well? Because that's really the golden nugget right here that people want to know is what's really working well right now at this point in time, especially COVID, right?
Right. Well, I mean, you can make these calls yourself, right? It's really good for you to understand that type of a script and that type of conversation, so that if you're going to pass this on to somebody, you have a good understanding of it. So you can make that call yourself. But you can also hire different people. I mean, there's a lot of call centers nowadays. There are VAs and people like that. But you have to be very careful when you hire these separate entities, because right, a lot of them, just culturally, they may not understand, how to communicate with a seller in this marketplace. So if you're using a VA, say maybe from the Philippines, and you have to make sure that person's very well dialed in. And there are some Filipinos out there who are, but you have to make sure that person's qualified. If it's a call center from any of the other countries, that are forever growing, again, you just have to make sure that person's qualified. You have to make sure that when they're conversing, this isn't just a lead that you would buy in bulk from some resource. This is a very well qualified lead. And you have to understand that a lot has gone through for you to have obtained that lead. Somebody went to the court, they pulled that file, they had to go through a lot of steps in order to get that lead over to you. So it's a very, very hot prospect. Somebody has lost a loved one. There's been a major change in the family, right? So more than likely 9 out of 10 times these houses will be sold, right? But you have to be able to converse and communicate and have empathy and have rapport building skills with these people. So these are the skills that anybody that's going to make the calls, whether it's yourself or whether it's a dialer that you're bringing on. I'll also tell you, Rob, you can think out of the box, right? A college student, who's got the right thinking.
College students all the time, because they're free at different times during the day, right? In between classes, or sometimes they have a large gap, and it's worked out really well.
As a matter of fact, I've talked about this before, right, on our prior calls. Some of my great callers are college students, right? A lot of my friends, say, hey, can you teach my son? Can you have him, join your team? And these kids love it. They're like sponges. They soak it all in, and they're hungry. That they're full of opportunities. Like the world is just there for them. Mm-hmm. And so fantastic. Stay-at-home mothers. There's a lot of stay-at-home mothers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people have struggled with COVID, right? A lot of people have actually lost their employment. And so there are a lot of good qualified people out there who are looking for an opportunity to do something new in their life. So maybe you can place an ad out there for somebody that might be willing to try this. They might have already had an experience in even communication and sales. I'll tell you, there's so many places to pick from. Some of the best places that I like to share with you are, I'm going to give you a few. One, car salesman. So car salesmen, are accustomed to going out there and talking to people and not being shy. Insurance salespeople, just salespeople in general. At one time, there was a woman that I met in the parking lot of a Costco, and she was just selling like little, just like little, I don't know, trinkets of some sort. And but she was such a passionate, on fire, sales person that I asked her, to come join me, and she didn't. So we had a great time. She was fantastic. So there's a lot of people out there with the right personality. I wouldn't say that they necessarily have to be real estate experienced, but rather that they have to have that right personality and passion for people.
They have to connect, right? They have to have the ability to connect, in a very short period of time on the phone, right? And you can always judge those people the first time you meet them, right? If you can start connecting with that person really quick, that they're a social person that can connect to people on the phone as well. So completely agree with you. So just to kind of keep it all rounded out here, we talked about university students, stay-at-home mom and dads, people impacted by COVID, right? That have that good personality. It's like, don't be afraid to put it out on Facebook that you're looking for some cold callers, that make X dollars an hour, right? And people are definitely open to that. This go around here now that some people have been laid off, right? Are there any other types of people that you wanted to mention?
Yes. This one's like my little secret go-to weapon.
I'm going to mute you right now. Hold on, so no one knows. So hold on, let me put you now. Go ahead.
My secret best outperforming caller ever has been senior citizens. Senior citizens. These are people who are retired. They are at home. And guess what? These people have a tremendously good method of communicating with others. They have the time. They love to converse. They grew up in an era where it was all about, I think rapport building came naturally, right? So this is something that people did on a day-to-day basis, and they spoke very, just for, long lengths of time with people. So some of my best callers have been, these individuals who are actually senior citizens. And I love it because, they got on the phone without any hesitation, and, they'll be like, "Hi, sweetie. Hi, how are you?" And they get into this whole conversation about, just life. And it's not about selling whatsoever. It's not about being the best closer. It's not about, having the most real estate experience.
Yeah,
exactly. So outperformed anybody else, senior citizens.
Well, there you have it, folks. The gold bomb of the century here when it comes to probate and cold calling. Definitely the right way to go. And again, so senior citizens at the top of Ernie Vargas's The Probate Fox, been doing it for 23 years plus, cold calling people. So what a gold bomb there. All right, Ernie. So that's the strategy, right? So cold calling is good. You have to be comfortable with it, or hire someone that's comfortable, in doing it, right? That social person. I'm a little bit more of an introvert, probably not the best person on the phone, right? But senior citizens, university students, stay-at-home mom and dads, and those people can really connect, and they have the time to be able to do it. That is good off hours, especially during COVID now. A lot of people are at home, so to be able to get those people during the day is really an exceptional way to do contact them. Any other gold hints or anything we want to talk about before we wrap this one up?
No, just go out and do it. There's a lot of sellers waiting for you. So yeah, just hit those phones.
Absolutely. And I would completely say, if, of course, you're interested, we have now nationwide inheritance lists and probate lists, of course. So you can hit us up on leadfusionlist.com. And, of course, you can call us at 877-799-0101. And, of course, these leads are fully skip traced as well, which is a unique benefit that we offer. Ernie, thank you very much. You are the Probate Fox, the master, the mind, the genius, and really appreciate you being on the call. Rob Badhorn from Lead Fusion. Until next week, appreciate it. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe. We have other videos on there that we've done in past weeks on different topics. And so you definitely want to get in there and understand what we've talked about in the past. Thanks a lot, Ernie. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right.
All right.